Thank you for coming for today's interview.
Oh, I've been really excited about this, and I've been very looking forward to speaking with you.
Me too. Thank you so much. So my name is Kinuko, and I'm CEO of Top Runner Marketing.
I'm Purna, and it's lovely to meet you, Kinoku. Thank you for thinking of me.
Today, I'd like to interview us content marketing. So can I start now? Are you ready for that?
Yep, let's go right into it. Okay,
you.
sound is good, video is okay?
Yes, you're beautiful.
Okay.
So first of all, could you please introduce yourself briefly?
Sure. Hi, I'm Purna Virji. I am a content strategist, digital marketer, and I currently work at LinkedIn as the principal consultant of content solutions. And I'm also the author of the award-winning book, High Impact Content Marketing.
Sounds great. And you have so many followers, over 10,000 followers on LinkedIn.
Yes, LinkedIn is an amazing, amazing platform, and it has grown so much. So for me personally, when I started out, I just started sharing. So a big part of my job is educating and empowering and lifting up other people. So in fact, I find that I love learning and I love aha moments. And so I'm most happy when I'm sharing aha moments with others. And so that's been one of the things that I've really done. And I found, especially when my book came out at the end of July last year, I realized that LinkedIn's the main platform that I should use to talk about it. And so I just started posting very regularly about it and testing different formats. And that has helped so much in growing the followers.
Actually, I'm one of the fan of you. These days, I listened to your video you post on LinkedIn about some marketing and any kind of marketing activities. That's so helpful and valuable.
Thank you. I'm so glad that it is helpful. It's something that I did when I worked at Microsoft, even before when I worked. So I spent the first 10 years of my years working in like startups and scale ups and like really like, smaller companies, which were very scrappy, where, you had to work really hard to make every dollar and get every customer. And it was really cool because you got to do so many different things. And then when Microsoft reached out to me many years ago to see if I wanted to join their new team, like it was just a beautiful way to learn and practice and take these skills and apply it globally. And in talking to people all across the world, like so many marketers, we all have the same problems, right? We're all like, what should we talk about? It's so competitive. How do we reach our audience? Or where do we even start? Or how do I get more leads, right? It's all the same questions that people have across different platforms. So I was very excited that LinkedIn being this awesome global platform, it's a great way to engage and reach with people.
Those questions are exactly what I am going to ask you.
Well, I'm excited to dive into it because I wrote a whole book about them. So yeah.
Thank you. So the first question about the important mindset for B2B companies, marketers in terms of content marketing. These days, I feel like some boring contents with focusing on SEO too much is now very increasing. And such contents are expected to increase more and more in the future with the use of generative AI. In such an environment, what kind of mindset should B2B marketers have in content creation?
Well, that's a fantastic question. And I'm so glad you asked it because it's so important. Because I think one of the longest things marketers have done is looked at content as this means to something else. It's like, oh, I want content so I can help with my SEO rankings and then I can do that. But content in and of itself is really powerful on its own in terms of engaging people, building sort of memory in mind. First, like a great piece of content can help you really remember a brand and make you like the brand. So that is something that's very important, one for B2B, but yes, any marketers to remember. And I'll give you 3 points to my answer. Point number 1 is that we need to stop optimizing for algorithms. For so long, like every time I talk to a marketer, they'll be like, how do I whether when I worked at like Bing or before, they'd be like, oh, well, what will help my SEO, or what does the algorithm like? Or even now it's social media. It's like, what time should I post? Like when does LinkedIn will optimize my post? I'm like, are you writing for the machines? Are you writing for the people? Like what's important to remember is that search, social, like any algorithm ultimately is chasing people, right? The whole goal of the algorithm is to give people content that they like and want, because then people will keep coming back to the platform. And then the more users to the platform, the more money the platform can make, because it can charge more money for ads, etc. So it is very much in the interest of you to align your goals in the same direction that the algorithm is looking at, which is appealing to people. So if you create content that your audience or that other people will actually really like and seek value in and benefit, and then if they react and engage and it looks popular, the algorithm is going to want to show that content to more and more people because, hey, that's what people like. So just think about it, like don't chase algorithms, chase people. And so don't start by thinking, what's going to help my Google ranking, for example. Think about what does my audience want? What are the questions they ask? How can I answer it best? And then the algorithms will reward it. So that's one thinking. The second thinking with B2B, exactly to your point about boring content, is that AI isn't there to go on autopilot, right? It is your co-pilot, it is your assistant. It is there to help you be more creative and engage your audiences better. So it's not about spamming the algorithms with just low value posts, or like, oh, this is my 5 keywords. I'm going to create like 50 posts for each keyword and put it up and that will work. But that's not going to work long term, right? We've seen that before. Right? How many algorithm updates have we seen? And SEOs are like, oh no, my site lost the ranking. So be careful of that. Use it to make it more creative. Like, how do you, I am not a designer, but if I want to create a video and edit it well, I use an AI tool to help me like edit the video or add sound or do something like that. So that way, even if I'm not a designer, I can do that. And then finally, the third point is to really treat your audience like people. People buy from people, people relate to other people. So just talk to them. And, very shocking, but business buyers are also people. And, we buy from the brands that we like or admire or care. So anyway, that's my answer to that.
I very agree with your opinion because human-centered content marketing is really core of the marketing because we don't handle some machine. So it is so important to center human. Thank you.
Of course.
The second question is the specific steps in content marketing. Like you've said at the first part, you always ask some when to post on LinkedIn or some technique, some kind of technique. But B2B companies, it is essential to design appropriate content creation to achieve their business goals. However, many B2B companies fail in content marketing because they cannot create appropriate content for their prospective customers, and then resulting in the inability to achieve business outcomes. And after 1 year or 1 year half, they are giving up to stop to creating content. So could you please tell me some detailed steps to create appropriate content to reach their target customers to achieve their business goals?
Sure, absolutely. And firstly, I have so much empathy for businesses that do that, right? You and I know like content creation is a lot of hard work and there's so much competition and it just feels like you're always chasing something and it's hard to achieve. So I have a lot of empathy, which is why I say like, let's take a more strategic, deliberate approach. So that way you can work less and make your content work more. So I break it down into really like 5 steps. So step number 1 is not to talk to your audience. That's actually step 2. Everyone always says, right, start with your audience. I'm like, no, don't start with your audience yet. Start with yourself, your own business. So many companies have different offerings, right? They might sell like 5 different products or have 5 different services. but not all of your different offerings make you the same amount of money, right? Offering A might be very, very popular, but it doesn't really make you any money. But offering B might actually not be as popular, but it makes you a lot of money. So if you could sell 10 of offer B, you'd be really good rather than trying to sell like 100 of offer A. So then I'm like, okay, if I had to prioritize what's better for my business results, let's focus on B first. So now I know what's going to make me money. Once I'm clear on that, now I'm like, rather than going in like 20 directions, I have 1 or 2 clear directions to go down. The next step, so step 2, is now I want to understand my customers. So who is the ideal customer profile who's more likely to come and purchase this offering? Like now that I've narrowed down what makes me money, who is my ideal audience? Like what do they like? What makes them want to buy? And, you know, if I could get more of this type of like top 20 or top 30, like ideal customer profile, my business would be really good. So now you want to try to understand them. So is it identifying like 6 or 7 customers to reach out and have a 30-minute phone call with to be like, tell us what made you buy, like why did you choose us, like what were you expecting before, and what have you found it to help you after? Like try to understand some of the questions around what were the pain points, why did they choose you, how has the experience been, would they recommend you to a friend? Because once you understand some of this, you are almost going to get amazing marketing copy that is almost written for you by customers, because you know what really stands out. The other thing you can do is, if you can't talk to your customers, you can also talk to your sales reps, right? Who in your business spends a lot of time talking to customers, right? They have what you call the voice of the customer. So I'll find like 5 or 6 sales reps or customer service reps, and I'll ask them all the same question, which is, hey, what are the most common objections you hear from customers? What are the common questions they ask? And what do you always say that helps you close the sale? Because that really helps me understand how I can better position my content, right? Because somebody says like, oh, talk about HR software. There's lots of different ways to talk about HR software. But if I know that they want to know, like, is it a single point of contact, single system? Does it work with CRM system? Blah, blah, blah. Whatever questions I know, I can angle it that way. So that's step 2. Step 3, and this is an important step that I find people forget, is to just look at your competitors. Not because we want to copy the competitors, but because they are also speaking to your same audience. And you want to position yourself in a different way, right? I'll give you an example. There was a customer that I had worked with that was a car dealership. And he was like, we've got the lowest prices in town. Now that's a great offer, right? You think, oh, super compelling. But 10 other car dealerships in the same area were like, we also have the lowest price. So then it's not a unique offer. And so we're like, okay, we need to change it to be like, hey, if you come buy a car, I'll give you like 5 free oil changes or something. Like now it's different. So you want to know how you can, because you're not the only one talking to your audience. They're seeing everybody else too. So then how do you differentiate yourself? So those are the 3 important research steps. And then step 4 is being like, okay, creating the content, testing it out, like distributing it, and spending a lot more time on distribution than you do on creation. And then just making sure you've got the right goals in mind for what your content's going to do. So these are really like the 5 steps. It's understand your business, understand your audience, do your competitor research, then figure out the goals you're trying to solve for, and then create and distribute.
That was really clear to understand, clear 5 steps. And actually, recently I had an opportunity to talk with my prospective clients recently, and he talked to me and helped so much understanding some core value of my service. And it was not what I seen before talking with him. So I think really it is important to talk with some customers what is our core value before starting to understand the clients. Thank you.
Of course. And I'll just add another point, like even if you have only 15 minutes and you can't talk to anyone, read reviews online. What are your customers saying about you and what are they saying about your competitors? It's super important. Then you almost get your copy written for you by your customers if you just pull in like, oh, customers really love this about me. Let me make sure I talk about it.
Thank you. So the third question is about setting goals for content marketing. It takes a certain amount of time to see results from content marketing. So many B2B companies stop their content marketing, like I said before, efforts after about a year or a year and a half. So how should we properly set goals for content marketing, and how long should we take to see some results? So please give me some examples of specific KPIs.
Sure, and that's really good that you're asking that. Is like one, I would say the first place to start with is what's the outcome that you're trying to drive, right? Many people are just like, oh, I want content marketing because I want more leads. And I'm like, well, hang on a second. Content marketing can do a lot more than that, right? It starts with building credibility. It comes with making people aware that you exist. It comes with sort of engaging and nurturing your audience, because B2B sales cycles, as you know, are so long. It's not 1 or 2 weeks, it is months. And so nurture, then it is upselling, right? So it's depending on the overall business goals and then the behavior change you want to drive, like that's really the big foundation. But what I try to look at is generally 4 categories. Like one is reach, right? Am I reaching the right audience? Am I reaching a lot of people? Like not necessarily like a lot, right? If I'm trying to reach like a very niche audience, am I at least reaching that audience? Like are the right people that I'm trying to attract clicking on my post? You don't need 1 million. You just need like, 10 of the right leads will be much more valuable than 1,000 like irrelevant leads. So it's not about the number, it's just, are you reaching the right people? And so that could be almost like your impressions, your click-through, like all of that. Like, am I getting clicks back? The second one is almost like response. Is there like a sentiment? Do they like your content? Is that, are they, what are they doing? Are they sharing it with others? Like, that can almost tell, are they commenting? If it's social media, are they engaging? What are they doing? If it's an email, then are they clicking through on the email to take action, right? So that's almost the response. The third is the response. Like, what are they doing? Are they now reaching out to have a call? Are they signing up for your newsletter? Are they doing something else? And then the fourth one is really the results. And what the results may be can vary. Like, let's say if it's an awareness campaign, like, are you seeing things like more search volume for your brand keyword? Are you getting more sort of other people talking about you? Are your executives getting reached out to by press or media inquiries? Are they getting invited for speaking gigs or that, right? That could be a really solid awareness metric that might not show up in like a Google Analytics, for example, but that is also a very valuable result. Another result could be, again, just your traffic, like website traffic going up. It could be things like your brand sentiment studies. So if you're a company, like a lot of B2B companies will do like brand sentiment studies on a regular basis, or, even social media platforms, you can do like a brand lift study to sort of see like how people are thinking of your brand in the right time or not. Other KPIs can, of course, start to be like referring others, or of course getting to the lead place, but there's so much that happens before a lead as well. Like, are you getting more followers on social media? Are people reaching out? So the goal is to like, what is the stage of awareness that your audience is in, and like, what's the goal of the content? And also to finally remember, like, marketing and sales are 2 sides of the same coin. Like, we do different things. Marketing fills the pipeline, sales is going to close it. So yes, are we getting high quality leads? Like, are we reaching the right people? Like, getting information from sales is also good, because I could put up some silly campaign and get a lot of views tomorrow, but if it's getting low quality leads, or it's going to waste time of my salespeople, that's not success either.
Many times marketing and sales team have some confliction because this is not good read for sales team, but marketing team has to pursue some numbers for creation of leads. So that's a very important point to set some goals and set some appropriate KPIs for each target.
Can I add something to that answer? Like you're 100,000% right. And that's exactly how I think. In fact, sales and marketing alignment is a topic that I'm so passionate about. And I think that we should work so much more closer together because ultimately we both help each other and benefit each other. The closer we work, the better. So something that I personally do when I work at, if I create a content marketing campaign at LinkedIn, for example, I will make sure that I talk to sales teams about understanding our customers, understanding their goals, their challenges, understanding sales, like what they need, like what are common questions, like, hey, rather than are you answering the same question like 1,000 times a day, can I put that out there in content so that way it's just, again, helpful for you there. And then I will create some of my list of like, hey, these are the outcomes that I want to target. These are the KPIs I measure, and I'll share it with sales before I create the content. And so then I get them to weigh in. So that way, you know what? We are partners in this, that we're on the same page. It's not like, hey, I did all of this. Did you like it or not? It's more like, I'm going to work to create something. Let's do it together. I want your input. Let's take a look. These are the goals. These are the outcomes. What can I do more of, less of, etc. And they help so much, right? So many times I've created some content and then I'll be like, sales, can you just take a quick look at it? And then they'll be like, oh, you know what, Perna, if you could add this point, it would be so much better. Or if you did this, it would be so much better. And it always is. Like when I listen to them, it's so helpful and it performs so much better. So yeah, if you're not talking to your sales team, it's so important. Sales and marketing become best friends. It's so worth it.
I really agree with your opinion. That's a very, very important point. So the next question is some strategies to maximize the results of contents. In many cases, B2B content marketers are struggling with some making results through some contents they create. Do you have any tips or specific strategies for maximizing business results, such as increasing the number of inquiries or the request for sales materials like that?
Yes, for sure. And for me, that there's one thing that I've been doing for years that has been so helpful is that I use this formula, this process called backward design. And it's very common in learning and development, but I've adapted it for content marketing. And I've written about it in my book as well, but I'll walk through it. Is before I start writing any piece of content or creating any piece of content, I'll make sure I do the backward design process first. So let me walk you through it. Now, traditionally, the process goes like, okay, what do I need to create? Where do I distribute it? And then how will I measure success, right? Normally that's the flow. But with backward design, with content, I flip it. So I first start with what's the results that I'm trying to drive for the business? What's the audience behavior change? And then I'll go and look at what do I need to create to do that? So it's easier to explain with an example. So let's say tomorrow you started working at Tesla, okay, we're just gonna make up a company, and Tesla has a new electric car coming out, like brand new, fancy schmancy. And it's your job to go and market it, right? So then if we think, what are the business goals that Tesla would want to achieve if they're launching a new car? They want to sell more cars, right? So that's the business goal. But sales is going to have to do the selling. Like we're marketing, we can't really sell the cars for sales, but what we can do is do a behavior change. And maybe the behavior change is get more people to come to my car showroom and take a test drive. Because if they've taken a test drive of the new car, then they're quite excited, then sales can talk to them and sell. And so, I mean, something that we can do with our marketing is get people really excited to come to the showroom and take a test drive. Right? So that's the behavior change. So that's step 2. So like step 1 was the business goal was make more sales. The Second step is audience outcomes is get them to the showroom. Step 3 now is when you're liking to think like, okay, who in the audience is going to be most likely to want to come and take a test drive? Like what, who's really interested in cars or in like fancy electric cars, or who has the money to buy it? And like, what do these people tend to like? Where do they hang out? What type of content do they consume? What platforms do they leverage, right? And then you think about what content should I talk about really at the end? So that way, for sure that this content that I'm creating is going to drive this business results. And so then if I go back to the business, I'm like, these are the goals that we're going to create. Because again, chief financial officers, CFOs, CMOs, like they're not talking about like reach and impressions. Like they don't care. They're just going to be like, did our business grow? Did you make me money? And so now we're going to be like, here's the clear path to revenue. And so what I always do before I create any content is I'll do that. I created like a brief at home, which is like, okay, this is what we need to talk about. These are the outcomes we want to drive. And so that way, whenever I'm creating content or I'm working with my teammates to create content, it's always like, is this going to get us to the outcome? Or, oh, maybe we should phrase this differently because remember, we're trying to drive to the outcome. So it gives you, almost like you have a compass to guide your direction, like North Star, so that those outcomes become like your guiding principles. So that's what I always do to help set up my content. So I'm not creating 100 different pieces and seeing what works. I'm very deliberate from the beginning.
Very easy to understand with some Tesla's example. And I really believe it is very important to create some proper blueprint before producing contents.
Exactly. Blueprint, that's the perfect word for it.
Yeah. Thank you. Next question is about some strategies for gaining followers on social networking services. I know you have told at your video the other day, the number is not so important, but most people think the number means some influential power. So you have more than 10,000 followers on LinkedIn. And I believe that the reason you have gained so many followers on LinkedIn is that the information or some know-how and the video you share and you post on LinkedIn is considered valuable and interesting for many people. So what kind of contents do you think important to increase the number of followers on LinkedIn or other social networking services?
Well, firstly, thank you for your kind words. I'm glad you like the content. Like sometimes I'm like creating it all alone at home and you're like, is anyone gonna like it? So thank you. I'm glad it's working. But anyway, I think where I always start is that the one motto is that your content is never about you. It's always about the audience. It's always in service to the audience. So I always try to think about what are common issues so I try to think about who am I trying to reach? Like I want to reach other marketers. I want to reach other sort of people who work adjacent to marketing. I want to reach somebody, executives who want to grow their business. So I try to think about what are the common concerns they might have, what are struggles that they face, what are struggles that I have faced that I know are common in others, or something that I've learned that I found helpful. I just want to share it with as many people as I can. Like if it helped me, I want to share it out. And again, I don't want to reach it would be lovely to have 1 million followers, but that's not my goal. Like my goal is to reach the right people, whether there's 50, whether there's 10,000, whether there's, 1 million. So I'm not so worried about do I need to have 1 million followers? I'm not chasing followers for that. I'm just putting out value and I focus on educating and empowering others. And that's really my approach. And then what I found that helps is once you understand what's important to your audience, create content for them in the format that's most preferred to them. And sometimes you can vary it. So I'll do a mix of video, audio, image, because it's always nice, right? Different people like to consume content in different ways, right? Some people like to read the book. Some people like to listen to the audio book, right? Some people will watch the video and some people will just read the subtitles, or some people like me need both. I like the subtitles and to listen to really hit. So we're all so different. So trying to make sure that am I doing both, and then seeing what gets a lot of reaction. Like I found personally for me. Oh, and I should also say this. Ultimately, the format that's easiest and fastest for you to create content in is the one you should use a lot of, because you won't get tired as easily. Like if for me, like I have no design skills. Like I have zero. Like if somebody hired me as a graphic designer tomorrow, they would like fire me in 5 minutes. They'd be like, you are a terrible designer. I'm like, I know, but thank God for AI and Canva and things like that. So I don't do as many like infographics or image posts because I'm just not that, it's not the best. But as you can probably tell, you know, I love to talk. And so for me, it's so much easier to just create talking videos, because I can keep talking forever, as my husband says, like, do you ever stop talking? But yeah. So I do that because that's easy for me and it's very natural. And so it's just, I enjoy doing it. And that's so important because that energy is going to come across to the audience, like the joy or the stress or the worry that goes in creating content, whether it's text. I personally believe that the audience can always tell. So have fun with it and just be consistent. So I realized that video does really, really well on LinkedIn. It's a really powerful format. People engage with it. I'm very careful to make sure I put in closed captions so that people can have the option to read if they're, you know, on a bus or a train or in the office and can't listen out loud. So that's what I do. So it's important to understand your audience. It's important to engage and be good and social. If you're not always able to create new content, you can comment on other people's posts if helpful. You can also curate content. But what's very important, especially on LinkedIn, is to add your perspective and your point of view, even if it's obvious, right? You could share an article, but if instead of just sharing the article link, if you added like 3-4 sentences that, oh, XYZ in that article really stood out to me, or that was such an interesting point, so here's why I'm sharing it with you all, then people get to know you. So it's super simple. It's first people have to get to know who you are. Then they have to feel like, do they like you? And then most important of all, then can they trust you? So it's know, like, trust. If you can, that's the order. And that's where if you post consistently, showcase who you are as a person, it's helpful.
Very interesting. I can understand some not technique, but some providing good information and thinking about people gonna lead to some increasing the number of followers eventually. That's an important point.
If I can add one more thing, it's like sometimes with B2B companies, especially, like there's such a tendency for marketing to write content to make the CEO happy or make the big boss happy, but they're not your audience. They're not buying from you. Like your content is not about you. It's always about the audience. It's in service of the audience. So don't be like, I think this, or we believe this. It's what's going to help you. Like, you know, you are struggling with this. Here's what can help you. And so use you more than I or we.
That's important to use you, not I. And having fun is, I really had a sympathy for that because I recently just started this activity for interviewing some global top learners like you and YouTube channel. But that is why I really love to talk with people like you, because it is very interesting to know about their stories and know-how, because in Japan, not so such many some various kind of the tips or know-how. So it is very important to know what kind of activities some global top runners like you are focusing on and thinking about. So having fun is one of the most important factors for content marketing, I think.
I so agree. Like having fun and putting out content that is fun is also a good business strategy. Like very often B2B, especially if you're in a very like serious vertical, like financial services or healthcare, then you're like, I must be very serious. I'm not allowed to have fun. And that's not true, right? Like we said, business buyers are people. They also want to work with the brands that make them feel something, like, and it make them emotional doesn't mean making people cry. It can just be like, hey, I like you, I admire you, I feel like I can trust you, or I feel confident in you, right? It's, and emotion and humor can help it be more memorable. Like you can see there's a trend on TikTok right now where this one girl put out, like, I'm looking for a guy working in finance who has a trust fund and 6 foot.
I'm looking for a man in finance with trust fund, 6'5", blue eyes, finance, trust fund, 6'5", blue eyes.
So some girl put that out there as a talk, and then some DJs remixed this and turned it into a song, and now it's like trending all over TikTok. And then like any financial service company could do really well to get on that trend and, you know, showcase that, like, you know, have that girl. There's actually a salad shop that got on the trend that played that song as the sound behind and showed the shop were full of finance guys coming into that salad shop to buy salads.
I'm looking for a man in finance with trust fund, 6'5", blue eyes, finance, trust fund, 6'5", blue eyes. I'm looking for a man, I'm looking for a man, I'm looking for a.
So if any girl is looking to date a guy in finance, should come do that. But, you know, if I was like PwC or like any big financial firm, you could have fun with that content and bring that girl and talk about, hey, you know, finance company sponsored a date for this girl with some finance guy or something like that. Just get on the trends, be trendy, have a personality, and it's just relate to different audiences.
I will check some TikTok after this interview. So the next question is about AI-based content creation. The use of AI is crucial to improve efficiency for content marketing. So do you use some AI tools for your content creation?
So personally, for me, what I use when I'm posting on LinkedIn is I'll use some editing software to help me. So I'll use like CapCut, for example. So I tend to record a lot of the videos that I post on my phone, and then I'll use CapCut, and like I sit in front of a window. And so sometimes if I'm filming at night, then the light is a little bit darker because there's no natural light coming in. And yes, I mean, I have a ring light and everything, but I can use filters to elevate the lighting, just make it look a little bit nicer. So that's what I'll do. CapCut makes it super easy just to like edit my videos or crop or so on, because the AI does so much of the work behind the scenes that I just press a few buttons. So that's what I use personally myself. Other things that I have used sometimes is like Hemingway. Sometimes when I write like I speak, and so it can be like a very long sentence. So then I'm like, can you shorten this for me a little? So that is good. So it's almost like a little co-worker, or like just something that helps. But I don't use it to create content from scratch, of course not. I feel like it's not a shortcut. It is really just if I can use an analogy that I use is like makeup, right? If I can use AI like makeup, so I'm going to put on red lipstick because I think I like the look of red lipstick. I think it makes me look nicer. So if I'm using AI to help enhance the look, but you can still see me, like it's still me, it's still Purna, you can see who I am. I just got red lipstick on or a little eyeliner, and maybe it looks more professional. But if I wore a mask, then you would not know who I was, and you'd be like, who is this person? We don't know. And so if you use AI to create everything for you and be this mask, people will never know you. They'll never know your brand. It just feels so generic. It'll be like just the same as everybody else. So my advice always is use some AI tools by all means to help you do some things faster, better, or if you have zero design skills like me, use AI to help you create some kind of designs or come up with some imagery. Like if you don't want to buy a lot of stock image, I will use like DALL-E or like Bing Image Generator to create some kind of images for my PowerPoint deck sometimes. So that's where it's super helpful, but otherwise I don't use it as a replacement for me.
That's important thing because I am worried about some as generative AI becomes more prevalent. As I said at the first part, some boring SEO focused contents gonna be much more increased by using generative AI. So I think it is very important to insert some original things which some only humans can write or can create. So it is very important not too much rely on AI.
Exactly. And of course, you might see it now too, right? Sometimes we'll see like all these, like maybe something really poor quality might work in the short term, but it's always, algorithms are always going to catch up. They're always going to, you know, get rid of content that just is not engaging for humans, because algorithms are always in service to the people first. So I think I compare it to the dot-com bubble. Like, do you remember the dot-com era when the beginning, when the internet first came out, and then there were all of these websites and all these web businesses, and then the bubble burst, and after that we have the internet like we have today. So I feel like we're going to go through a similar place where it will probably get worse in some areas before it gets better, but there's already so much good also that is coming out now. And so the people that will win long term are going to be the ones that take AI and use it to give them more like superpowers rather than lazy shortcuts. Because and I don't blame anyone, right? I always say if I could get an AI to go to the dentist for me or go to the gym for me and do a workout, I'm like, please go and do it. I don't like going to the dentist. I don't like to go to the workout. AI bot, please do it. But sadly, that's not the case. So again, I have full empathy. There are lots of small businesses that are, really struggling to compete with the big ones, but one or two good pieces of content can help you compete a lot more than like 100 lower quality pieces of content.
The next question gonna be maybe last to think of the time. And the last question is how to deal with resource shortages, because many B2B marketers are working concurrently to create content. Like they have some another job like webinar marketing or some other SNS marketing. So content creation gonna be much burden for them, and they don't have enough time to create good contents. And according to one survey which is conducted in Japan, they are only able to send us about one piece of content per month. How do you advise for them to speed up some content production if you don't have any budget to outsourcing to create contents?
That's a great question, and one so many people deal with, even sometimes me myself when I'm creating content like on my own, because I don't do it like during work, I do it on like the weekend, and I also want to rest on the weekend or do something else. So I don't want to spend the whole weekend working either. So I'll share some of the shortcuts that I use, or what I advise people to do is that, and I'll also just caveat that I don't post every day like I used to in the beginning, like 5 days a week, but I realized it's just too much. It's impossible to keep up with to the quality standard, right? So now I cut down. I post minimum once a week, sometimes 2, maybe 3 times a week, but only if it's something important to say that is valuable for the audience, because I don't want to just throw content if it's not helpful, right? I want to build my brand and be trusted by an audience. I will only like honor and respect my audience's time. So how to think about it? What if you can only create one piece of content per month? Does it mean everything's lost? No, because if you create one piece a month, that means in the year you're creating 12 pieces of content. That's actually quite a lot. You can always go back and reuse or repurpose some of your ideas. You can remix it. So, if you go to a wedding tomorrow, there might be like a really hit song from like 10 years ago that you can play, and people get so excited. Even like, let's say like the Macarena is like 20 years old, right? And like every time it plays at a wedding, we're all like, Macarena, we're doing the dance, right? So we get so excited with a hit song. Good content's going to work. And I'll tell you a funny story. Like one of my really close friends, her son is 10, and like I'm very friendly with her whole family. And so one day I was at her house and her son comes to me being like, Auntie Perna. I'm like, oh, what happened? He's like, I discovered a brand new band. I'm like, oh, really? Like, what's the group? He's like, no, I love this song. I'm listening to it all the time. It's on TikTok. It's a brand new band. And I'm like, really, really? Let me hear. And it was ABBA. It was like ABBA, which is like my dad would listen to that too. And I'm like, oh, it just shows that great content can work time and time again. Like the first time you release content, not everybody in your audience will have seen it, or there will be new audiences coming tomorrow who will listen to it or consume the content and be like, this is amazing. So I always say, like, take your content, let's say many companies make the mistake of being like, oh, I created this content, I posted it on LinkedIn, now I'm done because everybody in my audience saw it. And that's not true, right? The first time you post it, not everyone will see it. Some people may see it, but may not be in the mood to engage with it, or may not be ready to buy, so they're not ready to really care about it. So repost it again, republish your content. If it's good content, you can put it again. You could put it in a different format, right? That's where you can use AI really well. Like, hey, can I take this idea and can I convert it to a video? Can I convert it to a little infographic? Can I put it as a text post? Can I do it as like an audio post, voiceover, right? Put it in different formats and it can feel fresh. You could say the same thing, maybe in a different way. You could come up with a case study, right? There's so much you can do. Like, look at the backlog, and then you don't always have to be the one creating the content, right? If you look across the business, there's different teams within your company that are creating content. Maybe it's your PR teams are talking about a new product, or maybe it's the product teams who built a new product. You could interview them. You could come at one topic from 4 different angles, right? You could talk about it. Oh, here are these awesome trends in the industry, and here's where this fits. You can talk about it from your brand. Like, I'm so proud of my brand. We did this. You could talk about it as a leadership. Like, oh, while creating this product, here's what I learned. You could share advice to somebody, like 5 things you can take away, right? It's one idea. You just coming at it. So be really creative. You don't need to always be creating content. You need to see what's going to work with your audience and then just repurpose, remix, and reuse. And we all reuse content. Like any successful creator is constantly reusing their content.
Surprisingly, my first daughter is 7-year-old and she was big fan of ABBA.
I love it. ABBA is in all generations. Like everyone loves. My son loves ABBA too.
Thank you so much for that's all from my questions. So last, could you give some message from you for Japanese B2B marketers who are tackling their content creation?
Well, firstly, I would say arigato gozaimashita for listening to this. Thank you for paying attention and good luck. Like I know I'm like, I have been to Japan, by the way. I love Tokyo. It's like such a beautiful city. My father would do a lot of business with Japan when I was a kid. And so we would go quite often, and my father would learn Japanese on the Walkman with the headphones, and he'd be practicing. He would be like, each ni san shi go, he'd be like all the county. So I remember some of that. So it was very beautiful. But I would say just good luck. Don't overthink it. Like it's not easy, but it is actually quite simple, which is what's going to make you money? What does your audience need? And just remember, your content is always in service to your audience, to the people. And then the algorithms will reward good content with reach.
You gave me so much power to keep my content marketing today. Thank you so much. And many people who watch this interview gonna gain power from you too. Thank you so much. ありがとうございました。So please keep in touch.
Please keep in touch as well. Thank you. It was such a pleasure chatting with you. And let me know if you need anything else.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.